Hello fellas, today we are going over some tips and tricks that you should know when playing World of Warships. Some of these tips are more basic, some of them are more advanced I guess you could say, but either way they are bits of information that you should most definitely know when playing this game. There's a lot that goes into this game, from all the little nuances in the combat, the economy and all that jazz, so the more you know, the better. I do have the video broken up into chapters if you want to peruse through them and, go to a category that intrigues you more than the other ones, but we are starting with everyone's favorite class, submarines. In particular, tips on how to deal with them from the surface ship perspective. So, first off, knowing where they're at. Subs will always mirror each other's spawns. So if the friendly sub is on your flank, so is the enemy sub. And despite what you hear many players complain about, submarines are generally quite slow by this game's standards in most cases, so they typically won't go running to the other side of the map right away, meaning that if there's a sub on your flank, a friendly sub on your flank, there's also going to be an enemy sub, so be on the watch out for that. And once you do see that sub, if you have more than one ASW charge, it's best to only drop one at a time, talking about the plane charges, unless you are certain that you can hit the sub with both of those plane charges. Simply hitting the sub will cause them to leak oil, but the submarine player will also likely damage con this one instance of oil leakage. So, if you drop both of your ASW charges on them at the same time, that damage con they pop is going to clear that oil leakage. So, you've allowed them to clear it, and now you have no clue where they are at. So holding that second damage con charge, that second ASW charge, allows you to follow up on that first hit after they've used their damage con. And if you simply hit them at all, a direct hit, a glancing hit, on the edge of your ASW charge's range, it doesn't matter, that submarine will get another instance of oil leakage. But they've already used their damage con to stop that first instance of leakage. So now this new instance of oil leak that you've put on their submarine is going to sit there until the damage con comes off a cooldown, allowing you to track their movement with your second charge of ASW, and now you can really apply the pain to that submarine and hopefully sink them. Keep in mind, submarines don't have a whole lot of health, so if you really start pounding them with these ASW charges, they're going to go down quite quick. And of course, if you're near your friendly ships and such, they're going to dogpile the submarine. And if you can, again, get that permanent instance of oil leakage on them, they're going to go down quite quickly. So again, unless you're really, really sure that you can hit them with both charges, it's best to just drop them one at a time until you have that permanent oil leak going on. All right, next, sub nowadays are essentially torpedo DDs. They can submerge a little bit and use homing torpedoes, but after the most recent round of changes to them, they're essentially just torpedo DDs. So just like with torpedo DDs, if you are spotted, but are not spotting anything in return, there's probably a submarine or a destroyer there. Likely with torpedoes already on their way, so you need to start maneuvering. Despite what you may think, submarines usually don't, at least the good ones, ping you and then launch their torpedoes. They typically launch their torpedoes, and then when the torpedoes get close to your ship, they then ping you. So they'll try to, just like with torpedo DDs, give you a proper lead with the torpedoes, launch them, wait for them to get most of the way to your ship, and then ping you. But if you're maneuvering randomly, you'll throw off their torpedoes, and yes, they do home, but they don't home, again, that good. If they get way off of your heading, they typically won't home that hard unless like the British torpedoes. But either way, maneuvering, varying your speed, it will throw off their torpedo shots and make life harder for them and make you more difficult to sink. So if you're spotted and you're not spotting anything in return, start maneuvering. Fourthly, sub torpedoes now have a 3-kilometer arming distance. So if one gets spotted close to you, if you can close the distance to them and get within that 3 kilometers, their torpedoes are essentially useless. And so are they now. Keep in mind too that once submerged, subs are usually slower than same tier battleships, except of course the U-4501. So if they get spotted next to you, congratulations, they can do nothing now. If you can keep them within that 3 kilometer arming range, you can just drop your ASW on top of them without a care in the world. I'm not saying, if they're spotted out way in the front, like 7 kilometers away, you need to go run over to them and sell in front of the enemy team. Just that if they get spotted, next to you, how, submarines sometimes do, they try to, get sneaky and get behind your team. If they get spotted back there and they're like 6 kilometers, 5 kilometers away, if you go on sail on top of them, they're just useless at this point, especially if you're something like a destroyer or a light cruiser with deck-mounted depth charges. You can really just make them suffer at that point. So moving on from tips to deal submarines, we're going into some general combat tips. So first off, while bow armor can usually only be penetrated by guns large enough to overmatch it due to its steep angle, sterns are usually much more flat and can be pinned just fine, especially the British sterns. Secondly, you are not legally obligated to travel at full speed, battleship players. Rushing to the enemy team within the first 5 minutes of the match, while brave, is often a death sentence. You have neither the concealment or the speed to pull it off, so it's best to just kind of chill for the first 5 minutes of the game. And I know you want to get into those close quarters combat situations, especially if you're in something like a German ship, but you got to have patience and wait for the game to evolve to that point. Nextly, always have an escape plan, especially you destroyer players, especially when capping. If you get spotted as a destroyer in a cap circle, you need to be able to leave quickly and go undetected. An easy method is always having your bow facing out of the cap circle. That way you can just smash W and leave the cap, making use of island cover or smokescreen if your destroyer has it. Your main job as a destroyer is to stay alive for your team, and this will help you do so. Fourthly, if you aren't a DD, your job is to keep your DD alive by murdering any ship that tries to harm your Doritos. Destroyers provide multiple services to your team, like torpedo screening and spotting. They cannot do this if they are dead. If you can't see anything, you can't shoot it. So, keep your destroyers alive. Fifthly, if a torpedo destroyer like a Shimakaze starts shooting at you, proceed to do whatever it is that you are currently doing. They are trying to get you to turn broadside into their torpedoes, because you are presently not on a course to impact them. So don't worry about getting your full broadside on that Shimakaze that opens up on you. Your rear turrets will be just fine to dissuade him from shooting back at you, and keep sailing in the direction that you're going in, and you'll probably see his torpedoes pass by you in a few seconds. Sixthly, the flashing lights on ships means that they are using their damage con. Once the lights stop flashing, fires and floods can be set on the ship again. So if you see a ship's lights flashing, then they stop, now's the time to throw HE in their face, as any fires that you set on this ship will now burn until their damage con comes off a cooldown. Same with flooding. And seventhly, following up on our sixth tip here, if you get a single instance of fire on your ship, and you're in a ship with some more robust HP like a battleship, a heavy cruiser, or a large cruiser, don't worry about using damage con right away. Your ship has the HP to tank the damage, and 100% of fire damage is recoverable using your heal. You can usually comfortably tank 2 fires if you're above 50% HP. A good general guide is, generally again, not to damage con 2 fires unless you're below 50% HP, and then damage con single fires only once you are down to roughly the last 20% HP of your ship, or like when your ship's health bar turns red. So don't be too itchy with that damage con usage, because if you do damage con that single fire and you're at like 80% HP, just like what we went over in tip number 6, everyone can now just spam you with HE, get 3 or 4 fires set on you, and now you're going to have those 3 or 4 fires burn until either your ship is dead or until your damage con comes off a cooldown. And when you've got 3 or 4 fires burning on you, you likely aren't going to survive with more than maybe like the last third of your ship's HP intact, which again, if you're in the middle of combat, eating that much damage at one moment is going to be very poor for your long-term survivability. So just be smart about your damage con, and again, that general guide is a good place to start. Eighthly, smoke screens attract torpedoes. Don't sit still in them. It's best to move around a little bit, go a little quarter speed forward, go reverse. Make sure you also don't sit flat broadside on to the enemy team in the smoke screen, because again, they attract torpedoes. You should be angled out or angled into them. That way you can dodge the inevitable torpedoes that are probably going to come at your smoke. And while yes, not every time do torpedoes find their way to your smoke screen, in most cases they do. Ninthly, if you're in a battleship and shooting at a light cruiser, it's best to short your shots so your shells land in the water just underneath their belt armor. Light cruisers are lightly armored, so typically big, fast-moving shells pass right through them without arming. Throwing shells into the water will allow your shells to slow down before impacting the light cruiser's armor and arm on them, causing massive damage. So, rather than blasting them with your 16, 18-inch guns at 10 kilometers and just complaining that you're getting overpins, aim right a little bit below the waterline. The shells will go in the water, slow down, hit the hull, and then it'll probably actually citadel them, and then that light cruiser is no longer an issue with you. Tenthly, don't sell in a straight line. I don't care how much armor you have, don't sell in a straight line. Now some general economic tips. So first off, shooting higher tier ships than you gives you a 10% buff to your base income per tier. So for example, you're in a tier 6 ship doing damage to a tier 8 ship, you're getting a 20% boost to your economic income for the damage you're doing to that ship that's higher tier than you. So if you are getting double up tiered or getting up tiered, it's actually a pretty good economic advantage for you. It's also why tier 9 premiums are some of the best premiums in the game, because not only do they have a baked in excellent economy, when they get double up tier to super ship games, they're getting that 20% boost to their income as they're doing damage to those super ships. So yeah, should definitely save up for a tier 9 coal ship if you can play the game enough for that, which usually isn't too hard to do. Secondly, you can sell old modules, unused or unwanted camos, and upgrades in port. If you've never known about this, you're likely sitting on an absolute pile of old, alpha hulls, B hulls, old gun modules and stuff that you don't need anymore. So you probably got like 10 to 20 million credits just sitting in your port. You do this by going to the inventory, you're clicking on your name, going down to the inventory button on the drop down menu, and then there you go. Also, all these camos that are just cosmetic, if you don't care for them, you can sell them and make a tiny bit of profit. Thirdly, a year's worth of premium time is often sold at Christmas and during the game's anniversary. Premium time is by far the easiest way to ensure you're making profit in terms of XP and credits. And this year's worth of premium time that they sell at the game's anniversary and during Christmas is usually half off. So you can get an entire year of premium time for half off. Again, this is by far the easiest way to ensure you're making plenty of profit with your credits and your XP by buying this half off year worth of premium time. You can simply continue to play the game as you normally would, and you'll probably be making credits unless you really goof up in a match. Fourthly, don't worry about running full signal flags in random battles. Signal flags are cool, and I get that they do give you a great advantage when it comes to your ship's parameters and such, but look, it's random battles. You don't need to worry about running every single signal flag. Can you? Yes. And if you have either the skill or the ship, like a really good premium ship or something that can print credits, yeah, you can still run them and make plenty of profit. But if you're kind of low on credits, or you don't really care too much, you don't really need to run full signal flags. There's a couple that I would keep on. I would definitely keep the detonation flag on, because if you do detonate halfway through the match, that kind of sucks. So keep that magic piece of cloth on that protects your magazine, and like the speed flag and the heal flag if you're in a battleship. Other than that, I would just detonation flag. Definitely if you're in a destroyer, keep the det flag on, and resupplying that one flag won't break the bank at all if you resupply it for credits. So there's that. And if you are worried about signal flags, you can always just select the more signal flags container. From my experience, you get like 2 crates of signal flags and typically a bag of coal as well. So it's also a good way to get a bit of coal coming in addition to getting those signal flags coming in, so you don't have to worry about burning through your supply of signal flags. When should you use signal flags? Ranked and clan battles, because ranked and clan battles, those are the competitive modes. That's when you do want to, of course, use your signal flags and have your ship in tip-top shape in order to perform well. Those modes also, when you do win, they are very profitable, so you can make credits running full signal flags in ranked and clan battles when you do win. Lastly, in the economy, be wise about using your economic bonuses. If you get some blue ones, you may want to save those for ranked or, again, clan battles if you partake in those, because those can greatly increase your economic income in those modes that are already quite lucrative when you win. Or you can save it for when asymmetrics comes back, and you can use it to farm credits in asymmetric battles, or some of the more profitable temporary battle types, or some of the more profitable operations like we've seen with the D-Day operations. So you really shouldn't be burning through those blue economic bonuses just playing random battles or co-op. So save them for when you really need them. The gray and the green ones, they're given out a bit more generously, so those are the ones I would run in random battles, unless again you're going out with the purpose of farming credits. You're taking out your Azuma and you want to just farm as many credits as you can. Yes, that's perfectly good opportunity to use those blue economic bonuses, but definitely save them for when you are doing stuff like that, and don't just be running them all the time, because that's how you run out of them, because again, wargaming is pretty stingy with them. So guys, those are some tips and tricks that you should most definitely know when playing World of Warships. If you have any more tips and tricks, leave them in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, wonderful rest of the week. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 60,000 subscribers, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, wonderful rest of the week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.